Hi, I'm Mr. Koutros. This lab is on types of reactions. The purpose of this lab is to observe a bunch of reactions and write equations for them. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going around to all the stations. I'm not actually going to do the actual reactions. I'm just going to show you how to set it up. You're not going to see what actually happens at these stations, but you are going to know how to operate at this station safely. For safety, a few things. If you get chemicals on your skin, wash them off right away. Wear goggles. Make sure your attire is good, that it covers your body, no loose or dangling clothing, especially because we're working with fire. So keep papers away from the fire. Make sure to put any splints or matches that you might light. Just turn on the sink, wet them, and then put them down on the station. Don't put them in the sink. Also, make sure not to point heated test tubes at anyone. Make sure to point it away from people and away from yourself. Waft chemicals towards yourself. Don't sniff directly. That's a bad idea. Also, try not to hold test tubes in your hand. That's why there are beakers set up to hold the test tubes for you, or test tube racks set up. So don't hold them in your hand. Tell me if there's any problems, spills, accidents. That's really important. And make sure to follow all safety rules from your. Right. This is station 1. You see the Bunsen burner. There's going to be some strips of magnesium. The waste will go into this. You're going to want to use these tongs, and there's some matches. The first thing we're going to want to do is to turn the gas on at the station. Remember, this should already be off so that there's no gas coming out. You're going to light the match, and then you start turning the gas on. All right, you want a hot flame for this, so open up the air valve, and you should have the inner blue cone and roaring noise. Let me move the matches away for safety reasons. We're going to take one piece of magnesium, and we're going to put it inside the flame. Hold it over this. Make sure not to look directly at the magnesium. That's really important. It might be really bright. And then you'll just drop it into the waste beaker and turn the gas off. Make sure to turn it off down here too for the next group. If you arrive at this station, make sure that this is off before you turn the gas on over here. We're going to now move to station 2. All right, at station 2, you're going to have a waste beaker. You're going to have a test tube that's in a beaker here just so you can see it more easily. You might also have a test tube rack here. You're going to have a beaker with some magnesium strips. You can hold these in your hand. You're going to put the magnesium strips inside this test tube. This is really important. At many stations in the lab, there's a test tube that's rubber banded to a container. This test tube is only for holding the pipette. You shouldn't mix anything inside this test tube. What we're going to do is we're going to open this up. We're going to pipette the hydrochloric acid into here. Don't hold the test tube because then you could accidentally splash acid on your hand. You're going to then wait for the reaction to happen. You can, if you need to, touch the test tube just to feel the outside like the station tells you. Make sure if you get chemicals on your hand to wash them off right away. Finally, you're going to be lighting a splint. This is a wood splint. You're going to light it, put it over this, don't scream, and then when you're done with the splint, just put it under some water to make sure that it's out and put it on the station. At the end of this, you can use the test tube holder here to take the test tube. Remember, don't squeeze because it accidentally could fall, and you're going to pour this into the waste beaker at the end. That's it for station 2. We're going to move on to station 3. This is station 3. Again, we're going to be using fire, so make sure to keep anything flammable away from the flame. You have a test tube here. It says for it to be clean and dry. It's important that it's dry. It's not necessarily important that it's clean. You're going to be using ammonium carbonate. This is your waste beaker at the end. There's some splints, and this is called litmus paper. To wet the litmus paper during the station, you're just going to take a strip out with your hand, and you're just going to put it into the sink and get it a little wet, and that'll be okay for that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the ammonium carbonate. I just got a little chemicals on my hand, so I'm going to wash that off right away. So I'm going to take the ammonium carbonate, and I'm going to just put a jelly bean size into there. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just a little is fine. And then we're going to light the Bunsen burner. So remember that you want the gas off here. Turn it on there, but it's not really on. Light the match, turn the gas on. All right, you can see that it was hard to light and there's an inner blue cone already. That's because I didn't check to make sure that the air valve was closed before lighting. It's much easier to light the burner when the air valve is closed. Now we're going to want to open the air valve and get the inner blue cone. All right, we're going to take the tongs here, and then we're going to take the test tube and we're going to heat it in the flame. Make sure not to point it at people, point it like towards the wall, away from people. You don't want it turning into a little cannon. So we're going to heat it. You're going to take observations. There's some things that you're only going to be able to see right away, so make sure to look really carefully at the observations at this station. All right, when you're done with that, there are two tests that you need to be able to do. One is the litmus paper. So I'm going to turn off the flame here so that I don't have to worry about being burned by that. We're going to take the litmus paper, we're going to put it in the mouth of the test tube. Don't drop it in, that's important. Also, we're going to light a splint. So I'm going to light a splint, and then I'm going to put it into the mouth of the test tube. Again, don't drop it in. Just put it into the mouth and watch what happens. And then you, if you want to, you can wet it in the sink and put it down. All right, make sure not to drop that in. Do you get the sense that that's important? All right, and then finally, you're going to dump your waste into the waste beaker here. All right, let's move on to station 4. All right, so at station 4, you're going to have your calcium carbonate. You're going to have your hydrochloric acid. There's a scoop for the calcium carbonate, and you're going to do, again, about a jelly bean size into the test tube here. Then you're going to pipette the hydrochloric acid inside. So hydrochloric acid, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to draw some up and pipette it into there. And one more time, you're going to do a splint test where you light the splint, and you're going to, so light the splint with matches, put it down inside, don't drop it, observe what happens, and then if you need to wet it to turn, to make sure the flame is out, put it into under the water, and then put it down on your station. We're going to move on to station 5 now. All right, at station number 5, you're going to have a container of copper chloride, and you're going to have a piece of zinc. If for some reason your piece of zinc can't fit into the test tube, you can always put it on the ground and just crush it underfoot, and then take it up and put it in there. Use your hand, it's fine. So once you have the zinc in there, you're going to pipette the calcium chloride into the container. And then you're going to observe what happens. If you need to pick up the test tube to look to see what's happening, that's fine. It might take about a minute to really be able to see what's going on. Be patient, you'll see. Take observations of what's happening. At the end, you're going to put it in here. This station and the next station might involve some using the brush here to make sure that the test tube's clean before the next group gets it, because you can get some gunk stuck on the side. So make sure that that's nice and clean. You can use water from the sink to do that. Once you've poured most of the waste into the waste beaker, you can, any other little bits of waste could go down the drain. It's okay. We're going to go on to station 6 now. All right, at station number 6, you have a dropper bottle of sodium phosphate, and you also have the copper chloride in this container. Again, the test tube is just for holding. This is the test tube you're going to mix in. We don't need splints. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and pipette some into this, into the test tube there. The dropper bottle, the dropper for this is actually inside the bottle. So when you open this dropper bottle, you can just use the eyedropper in there to get the drops out. All right, at the end of the station, you're going to want to pour the waste into there and then use a brush to really thoroughly clean that test tube. We're going to move on to station 7. Okay, at station 7, you're going to have 2 dropper bottles, one of hydrochloric acid and one of sodium hydroxide. Make sure to rinse off your hands if you accidentally get anything on your skin. You have a waste container, and you also have the test tube. All right, there's also a bottle of phenolphthalein. It might not look like this. You might just have a small bottle, but you're only going to want to use 1 drop of phenolphthalein. Don't use more. All right, the way this station works is phenolphthalein is what's called an indicator. It turns pink in the presence of hydroxide, like sodium hydroxide. So you're going to look for that pink color. If the previous group didn't clean well, you might have some pink residue left over from the previous group. That's okay. That's just leftover phenolphthalein. All right, so you're going to use the dropper by turning it upside down and counting drops. You don't have to be perfect. Approximate's fine. One thing you might want to do is to use a stir rod to just mix it around. Try not to get your hands under the drops, by the way, because that would be an easy way to get chemicals on your skin right away. Again, wash them off right away if you can. All right, and then at the end of the station, you're going to pour it into the waste beaker. All right, we're going to move on to station 8. All right, at station 8, you're going to take some cold water, and you're going to fill the beaker about halfway, 2/3 of the way, put it up here. And then you're going to light the burner, the same way that we have been doing, and then slide the burner under there. This is very important. You're going to be watching the outside of the beaker, and you're going to only be able to see it in the first 10-15 seconds. So you got to watch very carefully when you slide that the burner under there, and look at the outside of the beaker and write down what your observations are. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you're prepared for lab.